Hello folks, well this is Miguel from the Embargo Man channel. Now, to say out of all this, I have seen it is comparison what Hollywood is talking. Alright, so um this is just a comparison to movies. Why this video is very important and very important to say how would Hollywood. I'm just trying to compare Hollywood with Japan, all right? In this kind of movie, that's how in the world they are talking crap about Sound of Freedom. Okay, so out of all these movies, World War II related movies of about Japan, right? So what it is more of all this. I have seen two movies about this thing. Human trafficking. It could be with children and women. All right. So what it is, if I have seen two movies related, and I have to say about this comparison. All right. So when the movie Pearl Harbor came out, there have been a lot of bad press in Japan, right? So and then they're talking about there's more of other movies related too. You could relate with these movies and what it is for now. And there's movies like, let's say, Paradise Road and John Rabe. All right, so what it is with this comparison and how sick and perverse people are in this world. You just have to take it through history. This is going on. Human trafficking has been there since day one. Okay? Sex trafficking and all this stuff, and then governments just cover things up. And the same thing, what it is, the elite cover things up. Why? Regardless if you're left or right, Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, this is something that it should not be tolerated, all right? We learned this from history. Get it? History. That's the main thing that we're talking about. I am against what it is about. I am against people cover things up when it comes to human trafficking, sexual slavery, and all that. But I am in favor of history, because history teaches us that if we learn from the past, it's not like it's happening in Cartagena or whatever. We have to go back to World War II. All right? Why World War II? Hollywood is acting like Japan, or like, let me just say this. Hollywood for now is Japan. Indie film studios, indie film with this movie has become the Pearl Harbor. Yeah, the Pearl Harbor, the movie for the Sound of Freedom. And it have won more tickets. More sales to the box office. Put it this way. And what is being oppressed, all right, or saying, this is like saying movies about World War II related. Why did I mention that thing? Why do I mention about human trafficking? This is more like they're making another movie about John Rabe, but related to the Chinese girls that have been kidnapped by the Japanese and that have been raped and get into their Japanese military brothels or something, like focus on the female victims, right? So what it is about this, and I have seen this comparison. You better have to see this movie, this Sound of Freedom movie, in comparison with the World War II movies is something that we need to learn from history. That movie has came out in the theaters, and what it is to be released in China, I mean, it's not. I mean, YouTube ain't allowed in China. Maybe in Hong Kong and in Korea, they should have been released by a Chinese studio. I mean, Golden Harvest will have to be released. Sound of Freedom for China, and include that also could include Hong Kong. You know, released in Hong Kong and mainland China and Hong Kong by Golden Harvest, released by a South Korean movie studio. It is what this comparison is, because I want to go right to the core of human trafficking during World War II. All right, the movie that I've seen is Paradise Road. Paradise Road is about Annette Prager, McCarthy, and Dr. Verstog being kidnapped. This started in Singapore. I mean, the movie is very well made and happening in that about forced labor, and when this came out around like Singapore 1942, when the Japanese went to Singapore, and they have, they attack, and they have an Australian and a British lady and an American, and what is it I have seen in this movie? They all got in crowd and sing in the choir. It is a beautiful film to watch, right? So it shows it is about the struggling lives of women, and all of them been forced labor, and also being lead into forced prostitution. And when I have seen forced prostitution and what the Japanese during World War II have done, this is very horrific. This is very, very horrific, right? And then they have a Chinese woman, and they burn her. They burn her to death in that movie. And then it's like, in other words, you have to see this because it is what it is. And what would does Japan seem with this type of movie? They just talk trash. Is what Hollywood is doing with Sound of Freedom. All right. I mean, this is very horrific during these times. All right. So, I mean, you compare about human trafficking, people who are victims and hardships and stuff. I mean, it has been terrible. It started from 1942 in a hotel and ended up in 1945, and everybody like went for freedom, right? So that's one movie about that. And then I have seen some videos, and I have seen on YouTube they're talking about and some Chinese woman who have been kidnapped at 16 years old and stuff, right? So this is one thing, is there's movies that don't ever expose what it is about human trafficking. I mean, it is for real. I mean, it still exists. It's not we cannot go back to World War II. It still exists, but we could learn from history out of all this time. And then what it is about it, people have been, pimps are in reality they're assholes, right? So, and I have to mention is that the last movie I saw, and they have this guy playing a doctor, it was John Rabe. All right, so I mean, because there was a movie called Nanking, that one did show. I have seen clips that I seen that clip that they did show the horrifying of what the Japanese did to Chinese girls and young women, teenage girls and young women, right? So it's very horrifying, you know. This is horrific, and what would these teenage girls and young women are called? Comfort women. So, and that's where I have seen now this John Rabe movie from 2009. Who is this man? Who is this guy? He is a man from the wrong part of history. I mean, what it is, he's a man with a good heart, and he is the CEO, of the Siemens company in China, right? So what he did is he did have made a safety zone, and I have seen that they did not mention the female victims. All right, so the female victims are the ones that you need to focus, and then you heard about it. You heard about all of the female victims that have been in transport for sexual slavery. So what it is about that, and then what it is in my point of view, and seeing the movie, it did have the man saving lives. This is not. I mean, we're not talking Schindler's List right there. We're talking about a man who is a businessman who, I mean, who's ever in power in Germany in that time. It was like the first phases. This is where the comfort women thing started, and this is where all this strategic, killing a lot of innocent people, women and children, all of this in just one movie and just one man. That, I mean, it seems to be remake. I mean, when I'm just comparing these movies, even though that one compared to Sound of Freedom now, and to what the Japanese think of seeing the movie about them, talking trash. Because now we heard about, oh, that's QAnon conspiracy theory, or whatever it is, that is like, like saying the like right-wing propaganda. The same thing goes with, if it's World War II related movies about Japan, is that, oh, that's Chinese propaganda and all that stuff. Why? Because talking about oppressed people from that time. I mean, what it is, the so-called oppressed people of World War II, they're now the second largest economy in the world. Even though I don't agree with their politics, but one thing for sure, as governments always hide things, they hide their sins or they hide their wrongdoings, they keep it inside their closet, and they don't just get it out of their closet. They have their skeletons in the closet. Hollywood also got skeletons in the closet about that. It is like, you got to be exposed, not to expose what is happening right now, to expose the history of it, and then that's it. So many things in there, so many skeletons in the closet that needs to get out. It needs to get out for all the reasons why. And what it is, and I will tell you, for people of Chinese descent and Korean descent, Chinese Americans or Korean Americans, please see the Sound of Freedom movie. And even for the movie, the actor from Hawaii 5-0, Daniel Day Kim, please see the Sound of Freedom movie. It is just what Hollywood elites are doing. They're acting like Japan when it comes to, like, say, when Japan comes to say movies about World War II, about the Battle of Nanking or Nanking massacre, that says this didn't happen. That now that for Japan is like, for Hollywood is the movie about this guy named Tim Ballard. I mean, Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus Christ, if to say, most likely to mention, what sucks about movies of World War II. I mean, not just Schindler's List, talk about Nazi Germany, but more like the human trafficking and sexual exploitation. It is like, hey, what it is that the World War II, about the comfort, Japan's comfort women system, their own form of, military brothels and forced prostitution from back then. It is not just Japan. I mean, it is not just Chinese and Korean girls and young women who are the victims. It had happened to everybody else, like I've seen in Paradise Road. I mean, it happened to Jan Ruff O'Hearn. She was a victim of forced prostitution and human trafficking. So it happens in the Philippines, with Filipinas suffering the same fate. Philippine young girls, girls and young women from the Philippines suffering about human traffickers, and these women are old ladies or elderly ladies, grandma age or something like that. This is like kind of horrific. So what it is about this, and what I see about when I see the movie, and I have to be comparing Sound of Freedom with World War II related movies, I think we should, or what's going on with Chinese and Korean and Asian women, in particular women from other countries within the system, where the majority are Chinese and Korean, is that we need to focus in a movie based, World War II related movie based on the victims of sexual exploitation. The Germans had their system in Germany. I mean, put it that way. I mean, if Daniel Day Kim were to see Sound of Freedom, his ideas in seeing this, because he's Korean American and he knows probably what's the history about what's going on, the comfort women and all that stuff, and probably he might just do a movie. He takes Jim Caviezel to play John Rabe. Maybe a YouTuber might be playing his wife, play Dora, and make a movie focus on John Rabe, but most likely on the female victims of the Nanking massacre, the female victims of the Battle of Nanking, where Japan attacked Nanking back in 1937 and stuff. And what he's going to expose is the beginning of this horrific horror story of these young girls, that they need to face their fate of sexual exploitation, to getting in the comfort stations, or the Japanese military brothels that they have endured from 1937 to 1945, by the end of World War II. But most likely, I think why Hollywood now they want to get a movie I mean, I don't agree of, of killing innocent people of some sort just because you have a couple of rotten apples, all right? So, I mean, what it is just governments always cover things up. They don't want to say anything. They want to say it's BS. And what I'm about to say is this: once you notice that when there's a movie that have impact people, it has to come there from the heart of people, and people have to change heart. I think Tim Ballard would be better fit for president of the United States because they are still victims. And this Operation Underground Railroad, that I have to say that Tim Ballard have to go to see these old ladies. Tim Ballard, if you are saying living in China, in South Korea, he has his mission to go as president. As president of the United States, Tim Ballard for president, I think he will have the chance to turn things around, turn China into a democracy, unify what Ronald Reagan did with Germany, unify the two Koreas, join forces, and what it is when you speak out an old Chinese woman or and a few old Korean women who are victims of sexual exploitation being transported during World War II, that these two countries would face off and say, we need to seek forgiveness and this and that, to have people explain, and people needs to know in their history books of what a one particular country have did wrong. Germany had did wrong. Everybody had did wrong, but they have exposed the Holocaust. But what are the missing Holocaust? The 1937 massacre, Nanking, the Battle of Nanking, known as, they call it the Nanking Massacre, or the Rape of Nanking, or the horrific human trafficking of Chinese and Korean girls, most likely women from other parts who are enslaved by the Japanese for forced prostitution, right? So, I mean, Tim Ballard as president would be better off relations between China, Japan, Korea. But then this is what it is. What this movie Sound of Freedom made me do in this comparison. I mean, what it is with these movies and what it is with Hollywood is, look, I mean, most likely Disney, because the movie that I saw the other week was made 5 years prior when Fox made it. Disney bought Fox, and then they have it on hold, and it just become an indie film. And Hollywood, on the other hand, and you have Disney. They look at it, all right. This is a movie about saving children from human trafficking, being exploited for pervs. It is like saying, okay, they're making a movie about a man in China saving Chinese girls from Japanese perverted men who serve the military and rape them. It's like the saying, like, says Hollywood is acting like Japan in that sort of way, and just saying that things need to be exposed. And I said that because it is true. It is always has been like that. When somebody like the elite do something wrong, they cover it up. When if it's about sexual exploitation, trafficking children in all this era is like that. Is like Japan hiding is about, okay, sexual exploitation with Chinese and Korean girls and young women and other women from other parts of the world under the Japanese occupation being forced to sexual exploitation and calling themselves the comfort women or whatever, and they didn't say that this didn't happen, or whatever it is. And so what it is about people blaming others, you cannot point a finger. All right, so what it is this: Hollywood, you cannot blame others from your own wrongdoings. I mean most likely few studios and all that stuff. I'm and just comparing this, and it's still happening right now. Russian is now kidnapping Ukrainian women, young women, and teenage girls for the same thing what the Japanese did with Chinese and Korean girls and young women during World War II. And this is what is going on. What it is this: if it were to be exposed of what it is, all right, this is more likely than what it is from history. All right, so people do the wrong things, like saying Korea back in World War II was Japan's Puerto Rico. It's like saying, oh, the U.S. military is recruiting Puerto Rican teenage girls and young women for forced prostitution for perverted American soldiers. Put it that way, if that would have happened. All right, so that's how it's been treated like that. That's how it's been viewed in whatever it is that we need to have this type of movie. And I think if Daniel Day Kim would be seen Sound of Freedom, he will probably have Jim Caviezel speaking in German. I mean what it says in word. It says God's children are not for sale. He might be saying in German. It would be awesome if he could play Rabe and speak German and whatever it is, and the subtitles, and that would be awesome. I think Daniel Day Kim would come up with John's List, like in Schindler's List, about Oscar Schindler in Germany, or like of Germany during World War II. Thank God for Germany has forgiveness. But then after this, like what Hollywood try to do is they want to make movies, let's say Oppenheimer. Why in the world's Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer, is this guy who has done who's done so many wrong, just because of few rotten apples. What he did is he's the father of the nuclear bomb and put the world in danger, has killed innocent people, men, women, and children, that has nothing to do with them sick pervs raping Chinese girls and Chinese women and forcing and get into forced prostitution. No, it's not that. Just because of a few bad apples, they have to freaking kill innocent people, women and children and family, and whatever, innocent people, right? So that's why this is what it is this another necessary evil. One thing is just exploiting children. What it is now, like nowadays, you have sick Dutch pervs. Maybe they're dealing with North Korea, like whatever it is, what the dudes that we drop the bomb during World War II that have their own pervs, and they do this with Korean girls, and where the same fate what it is. And I think what it is with human trafficking is still going on. You know, sexual exploitation is still going on, and that movie could stop it. We could stop this. It's not just that we could stop this kind of human trafficking, not just from the modern era, from today's era, but more of going it through the past. We need to go back to making World War II movies. Why? Because same as Hollywood turning down in an indie film, Japan could turn out in another film based on the same thing. And I think for Daniel Day Kim doing a movie about that, movie about Rabe, would be focusing more on the female victims with the with sexual exploitation and force. Same thing. This is kind of sick, and I hope I could see you in the next video on Embargo Man. Please subscribe, and I would say, and hit the bell button. I would say this. I would say, look, after you have seen this movie that was happening, about Tim Ballard and what it is about this, I hope you could see movies of John Rabe and from 2009, or the Nanking that is more detailed, and probably in Paradise Road, movies like that, and other movies that is based on World War II, more focus on Japan's mistakes, because once again, I wish Daniel Day Kim could see Sound of Freedom. I wish Tim Ballard to run for president of the United States for Japan to have better relations with China and Korea. That's it. Goodbye, peace out, and see you in the next video. Have a nice evening. Have a nice week, everybody.